Hello and welcome back to round 5 here. Now we are in for Mythic Championship Cleveland, more standard, and we're going to get a chance to see some more of the decks that are going to be shaping this metagame as we advance towards our top 8 on Sunday. Lots more standard today, a little bit of drafting tomorrow morning, but for now, very much looking at the decks that the big players have chosen to bring along and exactly what they can do with them. Let's head down to our feature match area for this round 5 here from Mythic Championship in Cleveland. Hello and welcome to this round 5 of the Mythic Championship here in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm Tim Willoughby, joined by Simon Gertson, and the format is standard now. We're going to get a chance to see 2 of our MPL pros facing off against one another. Andrea Mengucci on the left of our screen here, one of the winningest players out of Italy. He has been on the World Magic Cup team a huge number of times, very, very successful player. He is elected to play with Sultai mid-range. And on the other side of things, well, he finds him up against another player who's currently on a full 4-0 finish thus far, that being that man right there, Reid Duke of Team Ultimate Guard. He is on Mono Blue Tempo, one of the very popular decks in this format. We will see how he's able to shape things up, but we can see things here kicking off with an Ice Age Island. Reid does love his classic basic lands, straight into a Mistcloaked Herald, so he's threatening a bunch of unblockable damage early doors in this game.
Yep. And actually he has the premier start of this deck, which is the turn to Curious Obsession, which often enough the Mono Blue Tempo deck just manages to play as a way to deal damage, draw cards, and you never have to deploy another threat after that crucial turn.
Yeah, essentially what Reid has been able to do here is have the perfect early start here. He didn't have a way of meaningfully interacting at that point, so he played another Mistcloaked Herald. That did leave a window for Andrea Mengucci to find a cast down and deal with the first Mistcloaked Herald. So for Mengucci there, important that he was able to find an answer as quickly as he did, because Curious Obsession, if it hangs around for too long, it just represents a gigantic tempo swing.
Yeah, if Duke has a Spell Pierce or a Dive Down there, doesn't deploy the second Herald, then it's a completely different game.
Merfolk on both sides of things here. Mistcloaked Herald on one side, a Branch Walker on the other. Each of them having their own merits here. For Reid's deck, basically, the Mistcloaked Herald represents consistent damage, and yeah, once you've got a few threats in play, you're looking to tempo people out by essentially saying, now my mana is going to be deployed on stopping what my opponent has going on, rather than having to accelerate my clock.
Yeah, and now you can see here that very likely Mengucci doesn't have a second green source, or might be lacking lands altogether, because he binned that Jade Light Ranger, probably digging for something useful to do.
Siren Storm Tamer in play as well here, meaning that it's going to be that much more difficult to deal with the second Mistcloaked Herald than the first. It's been cast, there's mana left open to be able to activate that Siren Pirate Wizard's ability, and that means that Reid Duke already in the driver's seat here. He's got Andrea Mengucci down to 13 with a bunch of tenacious sources of damage that can be difficult for the Italian pro to stop. With each and every attack, that Curious Obsession means that Reid Duke able to draw more cards. The downside, if you will, of Curious Obsession, not really very much of a factor in this mono blue list, because so many of the creatures either have flying, or in the case of Mistcloaked Herald, even better forms of evasion, meaning that they can attack in each and every turn without too much worry.
You can see what Duke is holding here, and we will see why he's not deploying any cards, because he just is protecting the board that he has right now. That Siren Storm Tamer is doing multiple jobs at once. It's dealing one a turn, it's protecting the Mistcloaked Herald, but it's also reducing the mana cost of Wizard's Retort. So a ton of things that Siren Storm Tamer is doing for this mono blue deck.
Yeah, Reid Duke having the option here of playing Opt before he then fires off any sort of response here, and it doesn't take very much for Reid Duke to just be able to cement that first game, able to pick up the Game 1 win in pretty straightforward fashion. I mean, there are some games that we talk about with the mono blue list where it has to really work for every little bit, but when you draw a couple of unblockable creatures, a couple of Curious Obsessions, that's kind of the dream.
Well, Duke lost his first Curious Obsession creature, so at that point Mengucci was actually looking golden, but he didn't do anything after that, so Duke really just had an easy game from that on.
He will take it. We will have more, of course, from these two MPL pros soon enough as they go to their sideboards. We are going to go through a few messages. Don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome back to this, our very first Mythic Championship here in Cleveland, Ohio, and we're going to get a chance, while our main match, they're just finishing their sideboarding and shuffling and so on. We're not going to miss any of Andrea Mengucci and Reid, but we are going to get a chance to see a little bit about what's going on our back tables here. Brian Brown doing another one of our MPL players is up against Rob Pisano here. Brian Brown doing, he is on a list that is basically Izzet Drake's. It's got a little bit of a pickup in Terramander from the newest set, so he's able to do a few new moves there. On the other side of things, Rob Pisano, he is on good old-fashioned Esper control. He's got black, he's got white, he has blue, all working for him, and he's looking to take control of the game, making the most of quite a lot of new cards from Ravnica Allegiance, including Kaya, Orzhov Usurper, Her Wrath, and of course Absorb right back like it was in Invasion.
Yep, and he is actually playing the original copy from Invasion. This matchup is quite lopsided in the sense that game one, Esper has the upper hand. It can easily deal with the few threats that Izzet Drakes has, even through counter magic and dive downs. But after sideboarding, it becomes a totally different game because Izzet Drake suddenly doesn't have all these dead cards anymore, but instead it gets more counter magic, more ways to fight the Esper deck, and of course Niv Mizzet Perun to top things off.
So we'll have to check back in on that one later, maybe, if we want to find out how things have altered after sideboarding. As things stand, it looks like after Mengucci suffering a little bit from a very good draw from Reid Duke in game one, is now suffering in a different way, having had to go and take a mulligan here in his game two. He is the one on the Sultai list. He's the one that is almost inevitably going to be on the back foot a little bit in the early turns of this game. And so this mulligan, it may not simply be a matter of, well, I don't have the right mix of lands and spells. It could easily be that he doesn't have enough meaningful interaction early doors.
And a mulligan to a hand that is capable of casting, for example, a turn 2 removal spell is certainly better than a 7 that can't interact.
So it looks like Mengucci has elected to keep his 6, and the Scry there has left a card on top, so we will find out exactly what he's working with soon enough as he kicks things off there with a Watery Grave coming into play tapped. And it's second verse, same as the first for Reid Duke as he comes along with a Mistfolk Herald on turn 1. We will find out whether or not it is a curious Mistfolk Herald or not soon enough. Well, It looks like Reid Duke has one plan, but it's a very good plan. He is going to be attacking with a Curious Obsession, Enchanted, Miscloaked Herald once again, and this time just playing a land, passing with mana up. So one piece of removal may not be good enough here if there's the likes of a Spell Pierce or a Dive Down or similar coming from Duke. As things stand, though, Mengucci, he's just putting his threats on the board, going wide a little bit, each of them getting a little bit bigger thanks to Explore. So it may be that he's looking to get some sort of a race going on here.
Yeah, but no third land. That is definitely not where he wants to be. He now has to hope that one of the removal spells resolves. Something that you want to do is you don't want to give mono blue the ability to use its mana exactly on the turn that they want to use it. So for example, what you can do is you can upkeep or end of turn a cast down, and then in your turn try another one to really minimize the amount of mana that the mono blue player has.
A very lopsided looking hand here for Mengucci, and he's been given a bit of a difficult decision here. He's got a Landware Elves that he could cast, but without any excess land knocking around, he really does have to lean heavily on this cast down and hope that, even though the first one was almost inevitably going to get stopped, that at least the second might have a chance to be able to do something against this start from Reid.
Yeah, and good timing for sure by Mengucci, who does exactly what I talked about. He upkeeped the first cast down, so Duke, it might not seem like much, but it is a mana less for Duke in that turn.
All right, Tempest Yin comes down. For a while, this mono blue deck kind of got referred to as the Tempest Yin deck because obviously it is a very large creature for its casting cost very frequently in this mono blue list. But in point of fact, often it's not as important as some of these other creatures here, and we see that cast down able to kill it off without ending up being a big tempo loss there. And now Reid, he's looking at a hand that is obviously fairly well stocked as he's been drawing so many additional cards thanks to that Miscloaked Herald. But when you look at the life totals, Andrea's just been going straight for Reid each and every turn that he's had the option to here, and that actually means that it's comparatively close.
So you might be wondering why Mengucci let the Curious Obsession live and killed the Tempest Gen instead. He got to swing for 6 that turn, and he got rid of the biggest creature that there is. And now I think Mengucci is... Oh no, I thought he had another cast down to take down the Jin, but here he's playing right into Essence Scatter.
Essence captured there, meaning
Essence
+1/+1
yeah,
counter
he's
and get rid of the Kral Harpooner. Got the cast down to deal with Tempest Jin, but now we start to see creatures trading off. The life total's 9-5 in 9-2, apologies, there in Andrea Mengucci's favor, and this Miscloaked Herald pretty much priced into attacking a lot of the time, lest we see that Curious Obsession go away.
Check out Duke's hand. If Mengucci just doesn't cast a creature, then all these Essence Captures are effectively dead, but Entrancing Melody is about to come out as well.
Entrancing Melody, so potent when you start looking at the prevalence of Hydroid Krasis in this format. It's looking to steal creatures based on their casting cost, and of course the Krasis, once it's on the battlefield, casting cost of 2, very easy to steal with an Entrancing Melody. It turns out fickle when it comes to the music are these Hydroid Krasis.
And wow, what a swingy game.
Now, one of the cool things with Hydroid Krasis, of course, is that it does have a cast trigger. So even if it works out that Reid Duke is able to stop the big old body that comes down from Hydroid Krasis, that doesn't mean to say that Mengucci is getting no value whatsoever from it. So Duke there does counter before the ability resolves. I guess that in principle there might be something in terms of getting that counter on good and early. This is a tough spot for Reid. He's in a weird situation where he's got lands, he's got creatures on the battlefield. The life total's now very close indeed, and it's Reid the one with the unblockable creature. Andrea Mengucci, I mean, at least he's going to have some time after this round, because I think it could be very tough for him to get out of this one.
Yeah, a rough match for Mengucci, and this is the gameplay of the mono blue deck. Reid Duke, of course, with the perfect start, unblockable creature on 1, a Curious Obsession on turn 2, both games. And if you look at the graveyards, the answers and threats of the mono blue deck just work out nicely against this a little bit slower Sultai midrange deck.
Fantastic
Well,
start.
especially if you draw 2 cards a turn.
Yeah, I mean, once you're drawing 2 cards a turn, almost everything seems like it's working out better. But Reid Duke here, every reason to feel very happy with his start as he plays out a Surge Mare there, which is going to be difficult to be blocked by most of the creatures in Mengucci's deck. And there's the handshake. Duke advancing to 5-0 in straightforward fashion, it must be said here. The Ultimate Guard Pro Team member doing good work. And to be fair, the Team Ultimate Guard have done very, very well indeed thus far in the tournament. Just coming out of the limited rounds, it was incredibly impressive. That almost no losses between the entire team, really proving themselves to be a force to be reckoned with here at this Mythic Championship. We get a chance to have a look across at one of our other matchups now. We have Jerry Thompson on the left of our screen, another MPL member. He is up against John Rolfe, and we get a chance to see, well, no big surprises here. John Rolfe is playing a red deck. These are the kind of decks that he just loves to play. But in Rakdos, he's got a few new tools to play with, Simon.
Yeah, and it's not just Rakdos, but it's a Rakdos that's really going bigger than the mono red aggro deck. So we've called it Rakdos mid-range here. It's playing Siege King Commander in the main deck. That's a card we don't usually see in mono red. It's playing Lava Coil. Even some black removal spells, and then some spicy cards. Angrath, the Flame Chained, and Theater of Horrors in the main deck. All of this kind of held together by the power of Treasure Map, which, if it comes down early, you can just smooth out your draws, get those treasures, and either cast your spells, maybe even produce the black mana if you haven't drawn a black land, or just draw cards.
Now, Theatre of Horrors is one that I want to talk to you a little bit about, Simon, because it seems like, on the face of things, it's another one of the ways that the red decks can garner long-term card advantage, kind of like Experimental Frenzy, but it ends up playing out a little bit differently.
It does, and it's, in a way, you're less... well, you have more power over your fate than with Experimental Frenzy. With Experimental Frenzy, you just have to play what's on top of your deck, and that's it. With Theater of Horrors, you can play cards in your hand, you can activate it, and if the time is right, you can even get access to these additional cards. So Theater of Horrors is an upgrade to Experimental Frenzy, I dare to say, if you have access to black.
And unlike Experimental Frenzy, having multiple copies of Theatre of Horrors in play, that's completely fine. Each of them is exiling a card at the top of from the top of your library in your upkeep. Each of them is giving you access to still more cards. So here, the fact that John Rolfe has drawn a second copy of Theatre of Horrors, not too big a deal.
It's actually an interesting spot here in the sense that Carnage Tyrant on Thompson's side is somehow being held off by all these red creatures, goblins, and phoenixes alike. Thompson has to build a game plan around beating the Phoenix. I think that has to be one concern. The rest of the creatures, you probably can finality away quite easily. But similar to what we've seen in the matchup between Mengucci earlier, the Rolfe deck, the Rakdos deck is effectively drawing multiple cards a turn, the aggro deck here.
Hydroid Crisis coming along for Jerry Thompson there. Gains him a little bit of life, gets him a few more cards as well. Casting it with an odd number in the X cost. Yes, it might not feel quite as efficient in terms of when you start halving things because it gets rounded down, but making it a 5/5 flying trampler rather than a 4/4, you might as well. There's no harm in that.
Actually, that's the one point of toughness that you need to survive Rekindling Phoenix hits. Surely not as relevant when there is a Siege King commander on the battlefield, but still something to be wary about.
And we can see there a fair few cards in hand for Jerry Thompson. He's got Memorial to Folly. He's got Vivian Reid at some point, which is one half of the way of dealing with a Rekindling Phoenix, or indeed he could just take it with a Hostage Taker.
Hostage Taker is a great answer to Rekindling Phoenix once you hit 8 mana.
Lava Coil here. That represents 4 points of damage on a Hydroid Crisis. It's going to need a little bit of help to finally finish off the 5/5, but hey, look. Cards underneath these various Theatres of Horrors, enough to make sure that John Rolfe able to deal with the big flyer there. Now, I guess that one slightly tricky thing for Rolfe is that while he's holding back Carnage Tyrant, he's not getting in lots of damage just yet. He's not able to get away with swinging in with his flyer. Even though there's no blockers for that flyer, he really does need the Phoenix back on defense, at least for now.
If you ask me, Tim, he doesn't even care. He is the person that has 2 Theater of Horrors out. So it's up to Thompson to show that he can actually threaten to win this game. And it's not like Sultai midrange is suddenly generating 3 cards each turn, as good as Hydroid Crisis is.
It's interesting because duress in hand for Jerry at other stages of the game might have been fantastic, but you have John Rolfe here in a weird situation where he has no cards in his actual hand, but represents a lot of cards thanks to those 2 copies of Theatre of Horrors.
I think you have to Vivian down those theaters if you really want to play a long game.
Hostage Taker coming along here. We spoke about how that one is going to be a good answer to Rekindling Phoenix. And you can see that John Rolfe here, he is feeling the pressure up against a Pro Tour champion. This is the first Mythic Championship, but Jerry Thompson, back when it was the Pro Tour, he picked one up, and he has picked up that Goblin Chainwhirler and put that one to one side with his Hostage Taker.
And I think the reaction of Rolfe is actually him being a little bit upset that he tapped out during his turn when it wasn't entirely necessary. So you can see that if he had 2 mana open, he would have been able to activate Siege King Commander in response, severely limiting the options that Thompson has available to him. Now, if he loses the Rekindling Phoenix, then the Chainwhirler will eat it. But even if he doesn't, then his blocks are looking pretty bad in the face of all this damage coming in. So Rolfe, I think, by making this play of activating Theater of Horrors, probably overextended his mana a little bit at the last turn.
Slow and steady, potentially to win the race, but John Rolfe already a game down against another member of the Magic Pro League here in Jerry Thompson. Carnage Tyrant, yes, it's down, but at what cost for Rolfe here? He loses quite a few creatures. And there is a follow-up play here of getting that Goblin Chainwhirler down from underneath Hostage Taker. That, of course, in turn able to kill off the elemental generated when the Phoenix gets killed off.
Beautiful turn by Thompson, correctly identifying what to Hostage Taker. Even though your first instinct might be to take down the Phoenix, in this particular spot, taking the Chainwhirler really made it most difficult for Rolfe to have favorable blocks.
And with no sources of damage on the battlefield beyond the copies of Theatre of Horrors, it means that if John Rolfe wants to get access to all of those cards under Theatre of Horrors, it comes at quite a cost.
So suddenly it's, once again, mana being the limiting factor and not cards available to you.
Rolfe plays a land from underneath one. He plays a Goblin Chainwhirler from underneath one. And the Chainwhirler enabling Spectacle, meaning that gets to get still more action going, all from under these copies of Theatre of Horrors.
Technically speaking, you should probably start with the Reveler, just to have that look at your hand, at the card you draw, before deciding whether the Chainwhirler is the best play you can make.
Yeah, Rick's Mardy Reveler, a really interesting one. Some of the time, a 2/2 for 2 with a small ability, but much of the time, ideally, where you want to get the action from it is from that Spectacle cost.
I think Rolfe even could have gone for drawing 3 here. Was definitely a consideration just to not play the Chainwhirler this turn, draw 3 new cards, to maybe have a better shot at winning the game.
As things stand, Vivian Reid now, of the 2 copies of Theatre of Horrors, one of them has at least some lands under it, the other one is just sat there all on its own for now. But he elects to use it initially in order to find more creatures.
The turn Thompson played the Hostage Taker, he had already decided that he was not going to fight the theaters, but he was going to fight for board advantage and to restrict Rolfe in the mana that he has to deploy threats. So it only makes sense that Vivian was not used to -3 here.
A Lava Coil, the key card that is under one of these Theatre of Horrors now. That will be able to deal with one of the creatures on Thompson's side of the battlefield. And Rolfe at this point, so much mana available to him that his ability to use those Theatre of Horrors beginning to get pretty impressive. I'm very intrigued by this Rakdos mid-range list. It's not one that necessarily I would expect to see lots of players having shown up with, but it seems like it's got potential here.
Absolutely. Very interesting. I've seen Angrath in the sideboards, of mono red decks, playing a few black sources, but this is very very different in the sense that we are having access to cast downs, Vraska's Contempt, and those Theater of Horrors.
Yeah, I mean, one of the key clues that sets apart this Rakdos deck from a lot of them is the fact that it's got 25 lands. Mm-hmm. This is not the deck that's trying to go underneath what the opponent's doing. It's trying to basically be more powerful, not just in the early game, but once you get through to the later stages.
Playing Swamps, but and even Rakdos Guild Gates to have that mana available.
Now, Thompson here, that Spell Pierce in his hand, probably not achieving a whole lot. That Duress in his hand, not necessarily where he wants to be. And even though he still has Vivian Reid in play to generate card advantage for him, it's not abundantly clear that that puts him massively ahead as we see John Rolfe clearing the other side of the board entirely.
No, the card that is keeping Thompson in the game, I would say, is actually the Memorial to Folly. Because that is another Hydroid Krasis, another Hostage Taker, or another Carnage Tyrant, depending on what he thinks is most needed here. And in a pinch, Thompson can still -3 Vivian, even though he has declined it for so long. It might seem counterintuitive to suddenly go for the enchantments, but you know exactly what Rolfe is working with. So if you are certain that you can win the long game at a certain stage, just take care of the theaters and close the lid on this game.
So you see that Hydroid Krasis on the table there. It's not necessarily being cast. It's certainly not in play just yet, but it is there. That's the one that got picked up thanks to Memorial to Folly. So Jerry just sort of leaving it there as a courtesy to his opponent, respecting the fact that it means that he just doesn't have to write down the fact that it's sat in his hand just yet. But 7 mana here. Conspicuously, Jerry Thompson leaving up a single blue or black mana.
That's always quite of a tell when you have a Hydroid Krasis, which of course you could make as big as you want.
Mm-hmm. 1 copy of Theatre of Horrors down. Another land being played here, so the range of spells potentially coming from Jerry Thompson increasing quite a bit. And John just finding lands with that remaining Theatre of Horrors. He won't mind too much just taking those lands off the top of his deck. Certainly happier not to have to draw them.
Yeah, but still spells would be a lot more valuable at this stage of the game. Suddenly Rolfe might not even be able to attack anymore. Might want to... Oh, that was a really good draw.
Angrath getting hit there by a negate by the looks of things.
I think that's Disdainful Stroke.
Yes, sorry.
So it explains why Thompson left open exactly 2 mana to have backup from this devastating effect. This, by the way, would have swung for lethal. You -3 on Krasis, and you attack for 10.
Angrath just getting to borrow a creature for just long enough to represent lethal damage, but as things stand here, things looking pretty close. 8 life apiece. Hydroid Krasis in play for Jerry Thompson, so he's got a very straightforward 2-turn clock attacking in here. And a lot of cards in hand all of a sudden.
This has been a pretty amazing game. And Thompson is navigating it very, very interestingly, because it's not one of these games where your game plan is carved out from the very beginning. You kind of have to wait and see where you're going to end up based on all the draws that the Rakdos midrange deck can provide. And having that key counter magic where, if we're being honest, Disdainful Stroke not even being that great against Rakdos midrange, considering the amount of targets.
Yeah, I mean, Thompson here, leveraging his experience, he's one of those players that has played enough high-level competitive matchups that he can afford to sort of figure out the specifics of a situation rather than just working on rules of thumb, and ultimately able to navigate his way through against a potentially slightly unfamiliar deck compared to various of the other ones that he might expect to find in the field. Able to pick up the win there, straightforward 2-0. And you see a little smile there still from John Rolfe. He's just happy playing the red decks. He's had so much success with them, very much enjoys them. And we get a chance to see still more magic from our feature match area, Simon. Now we get a chance to see William Jensen. He is on mono blue up against Jack Kiefer on Izzet Phoenix.
And we actually just saw a handshake. So we will find out who won that game right there.
Yeah, it's looking pretty close. These guys, yeah, just filling in the slip. Synchronized magic going on in our feature match area.
I think Huey got it.
Yeah, Jack Kiefer, maybe slightly less experienced than his opponent in the feature match area in this instance, but great start for Team Ultimate. God, they had an absolutely fantastic run in the feature match area this round. 2 different players from the Peach Garden Oath on Mono Blue getting it done. I got a chance to see William Jensen's drafting, and he was very, very happy with his draft deck. Obviously finished 3-0 on that, so pleased with his results there as well.
I think it was like something like 16-2 across the 6 players. It's
in the limited
absurd,
rounds, yes.
Absurd record for limited, and now they're playing Mono Blue and really leveraging their experience, playing high-level Magic, intricate games where really every damage counts, every mana counts, and I think Mono Blue, great choice if you expect to be better than the competition.
Yeah, and that's something that, I mean, this team is just quality through and through, and you know that this team will have practiced a lot for this event. The Mythic Championships, this is the big show. This is where they want to be really showing off their skill, their determination, and thus far, by and large, they've just been performing on every level. Fantastic stuff from them. That is the end of our round 5. We will, of course, have plenty more standard. 3 more rounds of standard coming at you just today, and then, of course, more tomorrow. For now, though, it's all done here from round 5. See you soon.
Welcome back to the news desk here in Cleveland. 5-0, Michael Bonder going perfectly from Denmark. He said goodbye to girlfriend and his little tiny baby back at home in Denmark, going very nicely. The family will be well pleased with Michael's start to the weekend at 5-0. Also 5-0, Robert Graves. Now he's in his 9th start at this level, only 45% win rate so far, so 5-0, definitely his best start to a Mythic Championship / Pro Tour, whatever you want to call it. Fundamentally the same product, one might say. Now, Brian Lynn, he's 28 years old. He's from the United States of America. He is in his first start at this level, and he too is 5-0. Great stuff. And a big clash within the Magic Pro League. Reid Duke faced Andrea Mengucci. Mengucci, of course, 4 times in a row opened draft 3-0. Now got to 4-0, but this round fell to Reid Duke. So Reid is up to 5-0. Mengucci takes his first loss 4-1. Had a quick chat with Ross Merriam, who many of you will know. He is at 4-1, was 4-0. He said, I just took all my mulligans all in one round. So he's at 4-1, but feeling very good about things for Ross. Now, we had a chat here at the desk with William Huey Jensen earlier on. He is now in the company of Brian David Marshall.
All right, I'm here on the floor with Magic Hall of Famer William Huey Jensen. We once did a Grand Prix together, and every single round I was able to introduce him with a different accolade. And since then, he's added even more to the list. Team Series champion, and of course now Magic Pro League member. Huey, how is this event treating you and your Ultimate Guard teammates so far in this tournament?
Well, I know that we went 16-2 in draft, and I think we went like 4-2 in the first round of Constructor or something. I just finished my feature match over there against Jack, so I haven't had a chance to talk to the guys yet, but we're doing pretty darn well to start things off.
I could tell you the buzz in the back room is like, wow, Ultimate Guard's doing pretty well. And I'm like,
isn't it always?
I mean, always, but you guys are off to a better start than usual, and it might be that you guys are playing even more Magic than usual.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot. I've been streaming a lot and playing a lot. Luckily, John doesn't need to play Magic to be good, but the rest of us are playing a ton, and looks like, at least so far, it's showing in the results, which is great.
Yeah, you know, I talked about the accolades, but you've done everything. You won a Master Series. You played in the Junior Super Series. You've done Grand Prix, although not a lot of them. You've done the Pro Tour. You've done the Mythic Championship now. What has the streaming experience been like for you? What is it like to actually be able to directly engage with an audience on a regular basis?
Well, as you know from talking to me so much over the years in situations like this, I don't mind talking to people. I'm very comfortable being open and honest and saying what's on my mind, and I think people like that. And I've had a lot of even personal conversations with viewers of my stream and things like that, so I've really enjoyed it. Like a couple people that have just been regulars in my chat, I talk with regularly on Facebook now, and it's been really cool to sort of become a part of that community in addition to the overall broader Magic community.
I know you've been preparing for this event, and when you guys do that, you're laser focused. But have you thought ahead a little bit to that Mythic Invitational, big $1 million purse? I've talked to you for a long time. This is exactly the type of tournament you've been wanting to see in competitive Magic.
Yeah, I'm super excited for it. I'm not really thinking ahead. I'm just focused on today right now, but I'm sure the second this tournament ends, that's exactly what I'm going to get to, is just more preparation, more tournaments, and more Magic.
More streaming?
Yeah, definitely more streaming.
All right. Well, 5-0 here, off to a great start at Mythic Championship Cleveland.
That is certainly right. William Huey Jensen there. Now, lots of people don't quite have his resume yet, but Autumn Burchett, who went 9-1, led the constructed race after one Pro Tour a couple of seasons back. They are doing fantastically well at 5-0. You've hopefully already seen the deck tech. We'll hear more from Autumn in a little bit. Ben Friedman is up to 5-0. Now, I think he had a pretty horrendous journey to get here. Meant to come from California. All sorts of bad things happened with snow and all kinds of things. I'm not sure that would have been in California, but anyway, they found themselves eventually on a very long road trip to assorted other airports before finally making it in. There was a real one of the legendary Magic road trips featuring Mark Herberholtz, Ben Friedman, and a slew of others. Andrew Jessup was in that moving vehicle, and I don't think there was room for all the people that were actually in the vehicle. So you can imagine what they arrived like when they finally got here. But he's making the most of it. He's 5-0. So's Yi Han of China. And Austin Clark, an American player, got here for the first Mythic Championship or Pro Tour Magic the Gathering Online PTQ finalist to make it here for the first big live event for Austin Clark. Fantastic job. But what really stuck out for me from that interview with Huey Jensen, 16-2 Ultimate Guard. Wow, that's crazy. 16-2 in draft. Can they do anything like that tomorrow? Well, there's a good chance they'll all still be in contention as we head into day 2. But it is deck tech time once again. We've already seen mono blue tempo, so we have one of the legendary deck builders in the game. It's great to have him here with us. So here's Maria with Jerry Thompson.